I represent Grim. Why Grim? What does it mean? Grim is a word of the Vikings, the people of the North, who laid the foundation of Northern Europe and Russia. We are connected by the Nordic spirit. The Ring of Grim is the core organization behind Grim. Vetted men worldwide who support each other, build with each other, and understand one core element in life. When death greets you, all you have is who you have become. At the Ring of Grim, we take challenges that build our character, that build our bonds. We call them Ironfests. This one took us into the north, on the Folgefonna Glacier of Norway.
When the business was going down the tubes or failing, my dad used to say things to me like, it's better to light a candle than curse the dark. So focus on positive. You reframe something, a disaster into... I think Dale Carnegie had a saying, if life gives you a lemon, make lemonade. So I certainly made lemonade, or I tried my best to make lemonade out of the disaster that had happened to the family. That was the toughest thing physically and mentally that I've ever done. But I thought, you know, as I was doing the trek, I thought at times, oh God, if only I knew this was going to be so tough. I don't think I would have done it. But now that I've done it, I'd do it all again. It was amazing. And to meet a bunch of lads from all over the world that I'd never met before, and just to come together as that Brotherhood united by Grim, and to do this incredible trek, incredible adventure. What made me move initially was the great financial crisis, and it started in 2008, 2009. I was working in the family business that we had for my father, my uncle, my grandfather had established that business. It was running for over 54 years, and I worked there myself for about over 20 years. And when that ended, I thought my world had ended, and I didn't know what to do. It was horrendous. It was a very dark period for me, and I don't mind sharing it, but I've told people before I was actually suicidal at that time because I'd never been on welfare. I'd always worked, I'd always had a job, always had an income. But it was, I suppose, for a long time after the business closed down, I was ashamed. I was even afraid to go out of the house because you know, I couldn't pay my bills, I couldn't support my family. So I felt a lot of shame. I had to use whatever resources I had to try and make a living and try to get by. So I decided to leave Ireland at that time and to move to Spain. So I moved to the south of Spain to Costa Blanca, where I performed as a musician. And while I was away, somebody told me about returning to university as a mature student. And so I decided I'd apply for law, and I did, and that was in 2012. To my pleasant surprise, I was accepted. And so I entered university in September 2012 to study a 4-year law degree, and I graduated in 2016, and with first-class honors. So I was over the moon. I couldn't believe it, but I had to believe, I suppose, in a way, I had to believe in myself in order to make it, you know, to make it through. So I had to stay positive and stay focused, because this was my second chance at getting back on my feet again after losing pretty much everything. The most important thing that helped me get through is the wisdom that my father had imparted to me over the years, like ancient wisdom. And when I was a little boy, he had a book filled with old sayings, like proverbs almost. And I always remember the first page on the book. It said, "This book contains old sayings that contain the distilled wisdom of the ages." And it spoke to me somehow, and I really loved those old sayings, those old expressions. And my dad used to say things to me like, "Martin, when the business was going down the tubes or failing, as we would say, he said to me, 'Martin, it's better to light a candle than curse the dark.'" after the first 7 kilometers, I started getting cramps in we took a break, I started getting cramps in my thighs and build up because we sat around for too long. My body started to cool down and the lactic acid was building up. So, but the guys came along without a question. Rick from Germany came along, took my backpack, put it on his front, carried his own backpack. He says, come on, and helped me. There was another time I slipped and Linus from Lithuania was right behind me, caught me. Yeah, and those were times when I knew that my brothers got my back. You know, there's somebody there, they're part of the team, part of the group, and we all looked out for each other, and that was very, very special. I suppose the hardest thing was thinking, am I going to be able to make it? And what would happen if I'm not fit to make it? But I knew that there's a golden rule that I learned many years ago. You must focus on what you want, what you don't want, because if you focus on what you don't want, that's exactly what you'll get. Hypnotherapists would say that, well, that's a negative self-suggestion because you're programming your mind to focus on what you don't want. And because the mind thinks in pictures, it creates a picture of what you don't want and drives you towards that. So I kept focusing on what I want, get to the top, get there with my buddies, my partners. And so I just said, keep going, keep one foot in front of the other and get there. And we all got there. So yeah, I suppose that was the toughest part of it, yeah. We did a meditation beside the glacier, and it was like being in the presence of greatness, in the presence of something that has been there, that's alive in a way because it's moving all the time. When we did the meditation, it was a wonderful experience because you feel you're in the presence of something that has been there for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. God only knows how many years that ice has been there in its present form. But it just felt amazing, yeah, felt amazing. To feel that the force of nature, the beauty of nature. Got everybody to imagine seeing something from their past in the ice, like a moving picture. And then something that they perhaps were ashamed of or afraid of, or perhaps they'd like to change. And I asked them to just let the ice freeze and the image freeze as well at the same time. Take a pickaxe that was lying beside you and chop out the frozen image from the past that they wanted to get rid of. And so they took it over to a fire and placed it in a bucket and hung it on the tripod over the fire and allowed that image to melt and disappear in steam. We went back over to the glacier and looked at the ice again and saw an image of the positive you, or the positive, what they wanted to be like, what their ideal self, if you like, and see that image, feel what it's like to be that person, that's you, and savor the moment, enjoy the feeling of watching yourself the way that you want to be, and allow that image to remain, to stay in the glacier, protected by the glacier. I burned in the fire the shame of getting into trouble financially because of the financial crisis, because that wasn't my fault. That was the global financial system, the greed and evil in the system. So I burned the shame of that because it wasn't my fault. At the time I didn't realize, because it's when you're in the darkness, you can't see the wood for the trees. If I laugh, it's that I may not cry. I think it's because of the pain, and you get through it, and so you have to have a laugh, you know. And And we all had so many laughs on the trek, and it was fantastic. I would, rather than call it a trek, I would call it an adventure, and the adventure of a lifetime. It was fabulous, and thank you for making this possible. I never would have done this, never. And I think without the motivation of a team of like-minded individuals who come together and have this shared sense of value and purpose and camaraderie and all of that, I don't think it would have been possible.